Hello, and welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly program where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. As a reminder, the thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level, and to interact with us. We love seeing you light up the chat on Thursday nights, so on Facebook or on YouTube. So hello and good evening. And remember, your chats may appear on the show, so check yourself. And as always, if you can't catch us live, catch the replay or on your favorite podcasting app. You know me. My name is John Ruark, and I am a past master of the Patriot Lodge, number 1957 in Fairfax, Virginia. That's it. It's been a while. Joe, how you doing tonight?
Well, I know my name.
I miss
where I live and what lodge I'm a member of. How are you doing?
I missed like 2 weeks, and I'm out of the loop. I tell you what.
You forgot your name?
Did I?
Good Lord. You're like,
Who am I?
Ruark. Yes. Hi, I'm John Ruark. No, I'm not. I'm Joe Martinez. Hi, everybody. Joe Martinez here. Past master, Manassas Lodge, number 182 in Manassas, Virginia. Member of Things and Stuff. And as always, damn glad to be here, and have been missing John very much a lot. Missing. So glad to have him back.
With every bullet so far.
Indeed.
All right, let's give a special shout out to the patrons who support the show. You guys are awesome. Thank you as always for keeping this over 10 years of free Masonic education out there. So
we love you long time.
Thank you from the bottom of our heart. If you want to be a patron, go to patreon.com/the Masonic Roundtable and get free besos from Joe.
Many besitos. Yes. In different languages. That's what we do.
Awesome. And we also have that very special part of the show, the one that Joe can't get enough of.
I can't.
Which goes from the bottom of his heart to tell us all about it.
Tarot card of the week.
God, that sucks.
The tarot card of the week.
It is. What a shocker. It is the tarot card of the week.
It really is.
What is the tarot card of the week?
Well, let's see. I'm going to go from another deck that Jason got me, which is the Minimal Tarot.
Ooh.
Minimal. So if you are a minimalist, if you like as little iconography and as little symbology as possible,
as little philosophy as humanly possible. Get this one.
Yes. If you don't want to have to look at anything, this is it's just actually just a bunch of black cards. That's all it is.
Or direct meaning. You want to do none of that stuff, get this card.
This is the one for you. All right. So shuffling. Let's see what we got. I'll cut the deck, and look at that. We've got.
What is it?
Well, it's a feminine symbol with the.
Is it the High Priestess?
It is. It's probably the Empress. Probably. No.
Empress. Yeah.
Yes, the Empress. Fertility. The woman, sacred feminine, that kind of stuff. So that's all you get. That's all you get for this.
Bare minimum. Boom.
Bare minimum. You should know what it is. So it's a good deck, but you really gotta know your symbols. Plus, the different suits are the 4 classical elements.
Ooh, that's neat.
So you get a number and a triangle. That's all you get.
I mean, these cards are good if you're gonna do a reading like during a zombie invasion. It's like, all right, let's do a quick 3 card. Zombies are coming. I gotta run. Boom, go. And that's really all you're getting. Yeah, I like it.
But yeah, they're clean. It looks nice. And today we're tuning into our Empress card. So keep that in mind.
We'll take your word for it.
Yes. Channel into your feminine side, Joe, as we talk about officer lines and what to do when they don't work out quite the way you want.
Yeah. That happens. Happens a lot. More than we think, right?
Yes. Yes, the girl power tarot card. Good call.
Yes. Hello, D. Good to see you.
All right, so we call this one specifically, you named it for this week. Not just any kind of officer line. What kind of officer line?
This week we're going to be talking about imploding officer lines. So, yeah, we're not going to talk about, I know we've talked on the show, and even before I came on the show, talk about progressive lines and how one moves up the chairs and things. But today we're specifically going to focus on when the plan that you guys had in place, you guys or gals had in place, suddenly and very quickly one day just poof, explodes or implodes. What do you do?
But just 2 weeks ago, you were talking about the power of goal setting and making sure that everything is aligned and ready to go.
Right, and we did talk about that, and actually, I really loved the comments on the show that week. Lots of great suggestions from people who have tried to implement short-term and long-term goal setting and planning, and John's favorite word, strategic planning. Yes, it's not just a word; it's things to do. But the best laid plans. You can have plans that extend very far into the future, and a group of people who are super dedicated and love each other, and want to work together as a team. And then one person in that mix can throw a wrench into the machine and just kind of bring everything to a grinding halt.
So it's interesting because we were looking at like cover art. We're trying for the show too. We were playing around with a couple of different iconography, including the Titanic, which was kind of funny. But another one that came to mind, to your point, is when you have a progressive line system. There's all sorts of benefits to mentoring up and rising up and advancing. However, in that system, the biggest risk there is like a domino effect, right? It's like lining up dominoes, and it only takes one domino, no matter where it is, to fall over to then topple the rest of the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, we've all had our own unique opinions on things like progressive lines. And I'm going to take my opinionated hat off, and it does have some positive benefits, right? There are
absolutely, yeah,
to having a planned line of succession or a planned role for each person for each year in a Masonic lodge. Absolutely. You've got structure. People need structure. You can't live without structure, right? We have structure at work. We have structure at school. We have structure in our extracurricular activities, and there's absolutely structure in Masonry. So structure is absolutely wonderful. Another thing that we often overlook is, when it comes to progressive lines, at least I saw this, and then, I'll definitely ask you, John, what your thoughts were. Mentorship, if you're a new officer, you've got guys that have been Masons for years and years and years that are up above you and ahead of you, and you learn from them, and they, if you're in a really good lodge, they'll take a mentorship role with you and walk you through the things you're supposed to do, so you learn how to do them at least the way that lodge wants you to, right? So but you have opportunities for mentorship because you have this sense of structure that's built for you,
and probably related to that too is like the cohort, the camaraderie of that unit moving together, right? Because if you're in it to win it, right, then that you're advancing with these brothers you've trusted for up to 7+ years, right? So it's not a surprise. You have the group think that comes with all the officer meetings that you're familiar with, right? No curveballs, really. You get to know these people in their official duties as well as their fraternal duties. So that's another benefit of kind of going through this cohort of a progressive line.
No, absolutely. And I think you just touched on something equally important. It's the in that cohort mentality, you get to accumulate experience. Like if John is 2 seats above me, I can watch what John is doing and saying, oh, that's really good. I'm going to jot that down and I'm going to incorporate those things. Or what John's doing sucks.
Yes.
And I'm not going to do those things.
Don't do that. Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to cross that off, So you do get to accumulate experience just by being part of that group. Right. And then the other side of that coin, which I've seen, I don't know if you have, but, you talked about a cohort. So for that year, you have, let's say the year I was senior deacon, that's your group of guys, right? Like your 6 or 7 guys that you're living masonry with, that year. But every year somebody falls out of that cohort and you get a new person in that cohort, right? So the cohort changes, right? Changes
the bookends at best, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're moving along each step of the way in that cohort. You're, first you were the noob, and now 4 years later, you're the old guy in the group. And it changes the whole dynamic of the group and how the group operates and how they communicate with each other. So every year you got to basically learn a new way to communicate with this group of friends that you're doing things with. So it's kind of interesting. I know some people say, when it comes to progressive lines, it shows commitment to the lodge. That sounds really good on paper. So yeah, I mean, you're committing by saying, yes, I will be sitting in a chair here for the next 5 to 6 years, and
provide stability. Yeah. Not just structure, but stability for the lodge. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a sense of commitment, which is cool. You definitely need that, and you need that to preserve things like your ritual and preserve things like the traditions that your individual lodge has. And it will force you to be engaged, right? You can't skip that meeting, and you can't not go to that practice, or you can't not go to that degree. So it kind of forces you to be engaged, which is good for some people, get them out of their shell and, make them part of the group and subscribe to that group think like you were talking about. But again, we're talking about positive aspects, which we never really do, of progressive.
Strange. Yeah.
I know. Not that we're advocates of them, but it's good. In lodges, your typical average lodge, you've got a bunch of guys who've been there for a long time. You got a bunch of new guys. You got a few folks in the middle, right? But it's a good strata of the different people that live in that community or operate in that community. And so things like this structure that we're talking about can be a benefit. They can.
Yes. Until.
Well, yeah. And then, I mean, before we get to the implosion, let's talk about some of the negative aspects of progressive lines, right? Nice. Because, having a progressive line does have some negative aspects that go along with the positive ones. I mean, the first one I can think of is inflexibility. You've got Joe is sitting in this chair and John is sitting in the chair above him, and that is the way the election happened, and that's the way things will work. And that person's going to sit there whether they're the right person for that job, whether they're qualified for that job, and whether they actually execute that job. Mm-hmm. So if you make a choice that's not optimal for you, you're going to have to live with that for at least a year, if not more.
Yeah. Which related to that is the opposite side of the coin of the groupthink, right? Groupthink can be good if you have, a diverse set of perspectives and you have lots of talent, right? But there's also the negative side of groupthink, which is, isolated, right? Where it might not be willing to change or try things, right? Which then does freeze that culture of that lodge for 7+ years, right? So you have to think about the downside of having groupthink in a progressive line as well.
Yeah, no, and just to add a bow onto that comment, I mean, the one thing that pops into my head, and we've all experienced this, and a lot of you listening have experienced this. You've got a guy who was in your groupthink. He's like, yeah, that's cool. Everything you're doing is great. What we're doing is great. Everything we're doing is awesome. And then he becomes master, and then he's like, all that stuff sucks. We're not going to do any of that anymore. And, it's my year, and this is the things we're going to do during my year because it's my year. And,
that was always my plan. If I ever got to be Grandmaster, I would just play along for the 20+ years, and then, boom, mic drop, day one. Let's go. We're changing it all up.
Well,
you got all these committees.
You're doing a bad job of that, sir, because you don't play along.
It will never happen. Yeah, so I can safely say that on air.
You're very passive, aggressively subversive. So if that were a thing, but yeah, no. And that's again, it's because you're in this structure of a progressive line. You got to basically just sit there and deal with it for a year more. Right. And then, another negative aspect I can think of is burnout. You got a guy who started as a steward, brand new Mason. You put him in as a steward. He loved masonry, was there every week and doing all the things and going to the store for you and buying you the cupcakes and, taking care of new candidates for you and making sure the Masonic pajamas smell great, all that stuff. Fast forward 5 years, he's junior warden. He's tired of everything. He hates you. He hates everybody around you. He's tired of this.
A lot can happen in 5 years. I mean,
yeah, right. Yeah, that being in that small, tight knit group can impact you over the years and impact your relationship with masonry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a big outlet for us as Masons, is being a part of that lodge or being involved or invested in our lodges. But it can put a lot of pressure on people to, do the administrivia more so than worry about practicing masonry, right? And that comes with a big risk of just getting burnt out and saying, F it all,
That is true. Very, very true.
What's another thing? I think, and I think your ears are going to perk up when we say this, the exact opposite of having a structured progressive line means that there is a complete lack of living in a meritocracy, for lack of a better term, right? Like, the right person for the right job does not exist, in a progressive line setting, and people will always say, well, there's those bare minimums, or he wouldn't have gotten elected if he wasn't at least qualified. That's a bunch of crap, it really is. But you completely throw out the whole best person, right person for the right job mentality.
Exactly. It could be, it could be the old boys network, right? Because you're going to nominate someone in who's like you, right? To get at the back of the line. And then to your point, if someone, and I've seen it happen, someone has gone through the progressive line through 5 or 6 chairs, and they are about to advance to the east, and they're really not prepared. They're really like they're barely getting through with their ritual, like barely getting through, and it's like you get that gut feeling, like I really, for the health of the lodge, I really don't want to put this brother up as worshipful master, because it's not that I don't like the brother. I love him because he's my friend and brother, but he's not what's best for the lodge right now. And it doesn't matter that he put 6 years of progressive line chair moving into this. What do you do?
Right. It's that punching the clock mentality, right? It's like, and we sit there and we joke with certain groups or organizations within the umbrella of Freemasonry and say, as long as you punch your time card in a certain number of times, you'll get this award, or you'll get this hat, or you'll get this recognition. And in some places that's true, right? It's very, very true, which is a shame. But to your point, it's the progressive line system actually works against the whole right person for the right job scenario. It's you kind of hope for the best, and you can't plan for the worst, because it's kind of a fixed system, right? Like someone has to actually do something, to your point, like, hey, maybe he's not the best ritualist, or maybe he's not really good at management, or has no types of leadership skills whatsoever, because we don't teach that in Freemasonry, as hard as it may be to believe, contrary to what documents you get from your Grand Lodge website.
I've had all these officer trainings. They teach all this leadership skills and time management. What?
Shut up.
Masonry teaches you all that, doesn't it?
No. It does not. Masonry does not teach you how to be a leader. Okay,
what?
I'm sorry.
What?
No?
I've been lied to.
Let's stop it. We're gonna change gears on the show. Why John's an idiot? So
many reasons.
But it really is a wait and see game for some lodges, right? Like, it's like you sit there and you watch that guy, and to your point, you love that brother so much. I love you.
Of course.
I want to do that for you. I'm going to help you. And you're watching them move up the line, and then they get into the West, and you're like, holy shit! Like,
yeah,
he's not ready. So what do we do? Do we do something about it? Do the brothers get together? Do they, put a plan together? Do they sit down and talk to this person, or do they just hope for the best?
Yeah.
Hope it's not a completely tumultuous deal.
Which is actually one of the negative aspects of preserving harmony in the lodge. That hope for the best mentality, usually, in my experience, I've seen it happen more often than not, because we don't want to hurt the brothers' feelings, right? We want to preserve harmony in the lodge. We don't, so we're like, we'll help you out. We'll do but we're really just hoping for the best that you do get all your certifications in on time and you do get your plan together. So
you're bringing a lot of Virginia energy to this conversation.
Sure, of course.
Remember, a lot of jurisdictions, there's no ritual requirements to sit in the East. No, each jurisdiction is different. Virginia does have a lot of requirements for you to sit in the East. I will say that, right? You got to do all these things compared to other jurisdictions. Yeah, I mean, you got to be familiar with this. You got to know this, and you got to, be able to get through ritual, right? I'll say that. Some jurisdictions don't have that. It's like, just if you sat in the chair the year before, you're good. You're qualified.
Because we got people to do ritual if you need to. Yep.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, it's just interesting how that dynamic works when you have to, again, factor in your personal friendships with people versus the qualifications that they have to actually do the job.
Yeah.
And it's not like your workplace, right? It's like, John, if you get your job, you're getting called into the office and you're getting written up and you're getting put on a plan, on a PIP or something.
Plan, yep.
Yeah. There's none of that here because we never have enough people to do all the work. So,
that's true. Very true.
But yeah, so I mean, so we talked about the structure of progressive lines and the positive and the negative benefits of them. But okay, so you had a plan, whether it was good or bad, and you've got a bunch of brothers that are moving up in line year after year after year. Let's see, what's the first big one? Somebody dies.
Ooh,
okay.
Yeah.
Everybody, doing their job and everything is hunky dory. All of a sudden, a brother in that little cohort drops dead.
Now you got to scramble. Yeah, exactly. The most unfortunate scenario I've seen was a brother who was actually newly made worshipful master of the lodge. He had only been in the seat for a couple months, and of course, if you're the incoming senior warden, right? You're like, okay, good. I got a year left to plan my year in the East, because usually you really don't. Let's call it. It's Parkinson's law. Like you're not gonna do the work until it's due, right? So.
Right.
Okay, I got a year. I got a year to get my plans together, get my speakers lined up, get my education, get my,
learn my ritual.
Charities, learn my ritual, get all the stuff that I want to do. I got a year to plan, and then holy smokes, congratulations, we're gonna have to have a, an installation ceremony very quickly thereafter to keep the lodge, up and running. So
it's a very sudden disruption. It's probably one of the most sudden disruptions that we're going to talk about is, a brother ups and dies, nobody's fault, just gotta handle and you gotta overcome and adapt. But yeah, so again, we started with the most extreme, but one I've seen that's way more common is a brother suddenly and, not at the plan that everybody else was thinking about moves away. It's like, hey, I got a new job or, my kid's going to the school or I'm retiring and I've sold my house and, it's the middle of the year. It's like, I'm gone. Bye.
Well, so there's like a hypothetical academic lodge that, has brothers that join right from college, right? They're in college. Mm-hmm. They get active in Masonry and then they graduate college and move back home to the other side of the country. Sometimes in the middle of the year because you've graduated in May, June, you're literally halfway through your calendar year, and now one or more of your officers are like, so long, I'm ready to go pursue my life. So that's great for them, bad for the operations of the lodge.
Absolutely. We just a lodge I know that I've attended. Master just retired from the military. Had a great opportunity to get his house bought much quicker than he anticipated. So he's gone. He's leaving. And it's August. So here in Virginia, the Masonic year doesn't end until December. And but he's like, hey, I just retired. I thought I'd have more time. I don't. I just sold my house. I'm out of here. I love you guys, but I'm gone. So, that does happen. I've seen other instances of worshipful masters leaving. It's like, hey, got a new job, got to go, got to move my family. Family first. All those other things come first. Masonry should be like 4th or 5th or 6th or 9th in your list of priorities. But no matter what seat you're sitting in, you got to go. And that is, and I'm not putting a judgment on this. It's disruptive to all this planning, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
And so, if you're thinking about like the line of officers, right? If it's in the middle, you have at least the stability up front, the higher up officer positions, if you want to call them that. And then you could have, the assistance of the brethren to either fill the gap or everyone move up a seat. And so it might be a little rushed, but it's recoverable, at least in that sense, right? And that's if there's one, right? So now there might be multiple, think of worst case scenario, right? Multiple brothers that have a tiff or have a variety of, just when it rains, it pours. You have multiple brothers that might have issues going on. So that's now you have to do a little bit more juggling to get that stable again.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. What's another example I can think of? This happens more often than we would like. A brother decides that being an officer or moving up in line is just not for him, and he ups and quits on you. That's going to happen. And again, it's. I know I sound like there's judgment there, but again, as much as we would like to think otherwise, again, Masonry, and I know this is the host of the Masonic Roundtable telling you this. Masonry and the lodge, or the lodge itself, I don't want to say Masonry, but the lodge should not be the first priority in your life. And if it is, you need to spread those wings out and go find some other things. Find somebody to love you, and but it should not be the very first thing on your list when you wake up in the morning. You've got just like Worshipful Mike said, "Hey, Mike, love you." Happens all the time. But again, it's the realization that there are more important things than being an officer in your lodge that need to come first to make you a more happy human being, right? So
exactly. I mean, and I'm, because Mike the intern sharing this here, it's like, when he told us that, it's like, hey, I got to step back. Obviously we weren't in his lodge, but we were supportive, because it's like, yes, like, do what you need to do. This is important. This is critical. And, the lodge will be fine, but there's only one Mike Hambrick. So
there's only one Mikey. And I'm sure your lodge is still there, and I'm sure they love you and think you're awesome, because we do. But I mean, those are examples that are again valid. I've seen other examples where, again, all those negative impacts that we were talking about all accumulated and led to a person saying, F it, I'm out of here. Like Masonic burnout, they were doing way too much, and the stresses of doing all the things yourself and not sharing the workload, or not having brothers that were there to support you. That starts to build up, and it builds up quickly. And last time I checked, we're not the youngest generation in the room anymore. I know John does not like to hear that. Yes. But me, as a healthy Gen Xer, I will tell you, I am very comfortable knowing I'm not the youngest person in the room anymore. And the levels of BS that you can tolerate, they definitely go down as you get older. It just does. So I won't speak for millennials, because it's not my people, John. I'll let you speak for them. But my people, the Gen Xers, we're definitely
we're just waiting for you to get out of line. If you could just hurry up and step out of line already.
But it's all those negative impacts of the day in and day out stuff, and absolutely that happens all the time too. But again, the pressure, stagnation, risk of burnout, the inflexibility of the things you have to do day in and day out for years and years and years and years. And then again, and I know this bothers people, just the fact that they're in the systems that lodges have designed to have officers that run the lodge. There's no place for meritocracy, right? Like, I know John is the best for this job, but he's sitting 4 chairs away, so we're gonna have to wait those 4 years.
Yeah,
You know,
that's always been.
and then I got to deal with Joe for this year, and Joe sucks at it. You know,
Mhm.
that gnaws on people, right? Because that's not how they operate. In their workplace. No, I am not describing marriage.
I have to deal with this person for the next 4 years.
No, I'm still on my first. Thank you. I'm in the 2-decade club, so I'm good.
You still describe her as your first wife?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, my first wife. Absolutely right. But yeah, no, it's but yeah, we again, you hear like the story that Mike the intern was telling us. Mike quit, 2 months into being a master or whatever. It's like, negative on Mike. But again, it's because your priorities are just completely messed up, and they're wrong. They're bad. And you need to reprioritize and refocus. And the people that do that and do it in a positive way, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's probably the most often occurrence of an imploding officer line, right? Is when somebody ups and quits. Reasons aside, your master quits or your senior warden quits. And I've seen some people that, quit and leave masonry as a result. It's like, hey, this is not what I was looking for. This is not my bag. I'm tired. Doesn't matter that I've spent 7 years going up the chairs. I'm out of here.
Well,
Give me a minute.
Well, so then, and it's the way that happens too, right? Because you would hope that there would be a little bit of heads up and courtesy, barring extenuating circumstances, that if you're like, hey guys, I know I said I'd be your senior warden and we already had elections, but maybe I got a couple months left in me, but could we start planning for my replacement now? That would be the best thing that you could do. The most, brotherly thing you could do is to put in your quote unquote 2 weeks notice, but actually a couple months notice would be even better.
Right.
To give people the chance to gracefully have a succession plan. Obviously not always the case. And again, everyone has their own circumstances too. The worst case scenario is just a brother who's like, I'm done. Peace out. Bye. This is my last meeting. Crap. Now what? Like, it happens, but that's, if you can prevent that, if you are that brother, again, you have your reasons for stepping out of line, but if you can, right, try to hold on for a couple months so that way, at least part of the, train your replacement, is part of that.
Right, and that gets back into all those, again, it sounds so weird coming out of my mouth, the positive benefits of having progressive bonds.
It's a new, kinder, gentler Joe.
Gross. Anyway, having that, I know I'm totally I'm gonna do a Scanners moment, my brain's gonna explode. There's something living inside me. But no, going back to those positive benefits, having great mentorship, so if somebody does say, hey, I'm out of here, you've got people that you can throw in and at least mentor them through the next few months. I've seen lodges that have a whole bench of past masters that just love to do nothing but complain. Grab one of them. Say, hey, you've done this before. We need your help.
Yeah.
Well,
so that's what we needed to do for the Patriot Lodge. I mean, the unnamed academic lodge that had brothers that would graduate. One thing that we did not plan enough for was to have the rotation of past masters that we could, because again, we didn't have dozens of past masters, right? We've only been chartered since 2011. So we quickly learned that we had to rotate past masters again in very quickly. And that helped give us with a stability. But of course, now you're introducing past master burnout, which is also not cool. But at least it is a stopgap measure that you probably have great mentors in your lodge that have had the experience, preferably past masters. So been there, done that. They know the structure. They know the lodge. You can easily put them in and say, hey, yes, not optimal, but can you fill in for the rest of the year, senior warden or whatever, and be ready to move on. So much easier to do that with someone who's had that experience than pulling a new guy off of the bench and say, hey, I know you just got raised last week, but how about being senior warden until elections next week?
How about sitting in a warden seat?
Yeah.
And
Keep this
first thing
chair
they-
warm. Try it on for size. See if you like it.
But yeah, no, and it's and not all lodges are lucky in having a healthy line of past masters that number one still come to lodge.
They're there.
Yeah, are present and are willing to help. Right, that's the big three there.
Willing and able. Yes.
Yep, and are not just curmudgeons sitting on the north side of the lodge.
Would you take a curmudgeon to help fill that seat as opposed to trying to scrounge up?
Who are you? Are you asking Joe, your co-host, or Joe as a person?
Happy Joe or usual Joe?
Usual Joe, I'd take the curmudgeon just to get that conflict, because conflict breeds sparks, sparks make fire, and fire makes the world go round.
Yeah, I could see that.
Just to spice it up a little bit. Absolutely. Yeah, but Happy Joe, no, absolutely not. I'd find that new guy who just got raised a month before. Say, hey, go sit in this seat. You don't have
Here's
to
your
talk.
mentor. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, here's a book. Read it.
Shape the future.
Here's some Mackie. Just read Mackie's encyclopedia.
Not relive the past.
You'll know everything.
Back in my years.
when the landmarks were ancient. Yes.
When there was only 7 ancient landmarks.
But yeah, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, imploding officer line. Another thing that I've seen, and I know you've been to lodges that operate like this, are lodges that don't do a progressive line system, right? They do plan and they do strategize, but
Sure.
it's not this typical progressive. You take the new guy, he sits as a steward or a deacon, and he moves up and learns along the way. You've got to, and these are normally, I don't even want to say affinity lodges. These are lodges that were designed for a very special purpose, right? To be education-centric lodges or philosophy-centric lodges, affinity lodges, but I don't want to use that term, right? Lodges that have brothers that are already heavily invested, already have years of experience in masonry, and they decide their lines, their officer lines, based on what works best for them. So those types of lodges probably see very minimal impact when somebody does that. Like, hey, life's too busy. I got to go. I'm bailing. Cool. We got you covered. You got, 3 other guys with your same skill set level, with your same level of interest that can slot right in, and everybody's a pro at it. So,
yeah. And that's the thing, right? So instead of putting your eggs in one basket of a progressive line, you actually have multiple lines, or you have multiple, backups to the backups, right? Where you have people who can rise to the occasion because they know that they could rise to the occasion at any time, and not just rest on their laurels and sit back and say, well, I'll just show up to lodge. I really don't have to be an officer because I know they got it covered. I don't have to worry about that for a while. But no, if you have, I don't know what's a better word for that, but I guess, for lack of a better term, a more active lodge, right? Where the brothers are there. They know that, that they could be called on to serve in other capacities at any time. And then that promotes strength in the lodge.
yep, absolutely. And that cohort
So do that.
is not 5 or 6 guys. It's 30 guys, right? It's
a huge, it's like a sports team, right? You got a large bench that you're staffing up, you're practicing and training with them. Those are the words I was looking for, right? So, and I've seen that work where even in, like, for example, my mother lodge, when I joined, they're like, here are officer meetings. Anybody can go to them. Like, we're going to have the officer meeting in our social hall. There's no secrets. Come on in. If you're a brand new Mason, you want to see how we talk about the budget? Come on in. Like, give us your input. So that way, a new brother was like, they may not have ever seen a budget before until they took their officer training, right? And in their year in the West, you're like, holy crap. No, they're familiar with it now. They know what to expect. They know what kind of conversations. They know what we talked about for this year for the budget. So it's, again, no surprises. You have those opportunities to set the stage for those brothers.
Yeah, and I think what you said resonates a lot, because what I've seen, and you've probably seen it too, is that there's 2 types of lodges. There are the lodges where, again, it's that sports team mentality, and you can apply this to business too. I've seen 2 types of businesses where it's like very few people sit in the chair, sit in the conference room, and do all the big meetings and get all the big information and then disseminate what they want down to their people.
How
right?
true. Yep, seen that. Mm-hmm.
And it keeps getting the list of information gets smaller and smaller as it goes down the totem pole. And then you've also got that cohort mentality in the workplace, right? Which also applies to lodges, where everybody knows everything. Every single person in that room knows all the things that the master knows, or that the warden knows, or that the knows how much money we have, knows how much, the electric bill costs. You know everything, right? Because you're exposed to all of it. And then you can pick and choose what you find of import and what you can just take and throw away. But at least you're exposed to it, right? Mm-hmm. And like for me, I'm blessed. Like I work in an organization now where it's that everybody's going to know everything mentality. You're going to know how well we're doing. You're going to know what things we're doing, what we're not doing anymore, and why we're not doing them. But again, you go to 2 different lodges in the same town, you'll see 2 different mentalities when it comes to that. It's just, information is key, and I'm the king of the information. Now I'm only going to share what I think is relevant. We'll see how well that works out for you.
Yeah. Just don't have any imploding officer lines, and you'll be fine.
Yes. But
so yeah, I think that's probably one of the best mitigation plans for when an officer line implodes is to have that backbench, and therefore that needs to be part of your planning as master or wardens, right? That one common phrase I've often heard when I was going through the line was, know the seat in front of you and train your replacement, right? So there's always that mantra that goes through. Be ready to sit in the seat in front of you at all times, and then also make sure that the guy behind you is ready to fill your seat. So that should also be part of that mantra of building that bench, is like have those conversations, right?
Right, and even if it's a job as you're describing it, it organically has all these other positive benefits. Like if you're training your replacement, you're getting one-on-one time with this person, you're learning and you're sharing with this person, and you're getting hopefully closer to this person by making sure that they can do all the things that at least you can do on paper. So it's engendering these close relationships that you would not normally have if you didn't give a crap and just were going through the chairs and worrying about you and waiting for your year, which unfortunately you still have a lot of. But
True.
But yeah, no, I think that's I think we covered all the different types of officer line implosions. I know this came up just because it's people think it doesn't happen as often as it does, but the more you talk to people, the more you realize this happens all the time.
And lots of stories, lots of oh yeah, I remember when that happened, and it's and because of the variability, there's lots of things that could go wrong, and often do. Yeah,
and some of them are completely out of your control.
Yep.
The one mitigation we didn't talk about, which people love to bring up on this show, is when your master has to do a second year or another year. Your master stays in the East. Yeah, that's another mitigation strategy that is definitely not one that you plan for.
Do you get a jewel for that? Is that like a new collar or something? Or
you get another year of bill paying. Getting yelled at, but so that is a mitigation strategy.
So yeah, we talked a lot about moving up, but we didn't really talk much about staying in place. Right?
Staying in place, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk about. At least here in Virginia, and I know other jurisdictions did this as well. But I know it was very prevalent in you better shut up, Sun Card.
Forever, Master Joe.
Oh, Sun Card.
Sun Card's gonna get blocked.
I hear my wife coming down the stairs with a shotgun.
What?
But
your first wife.
Yes, first wife. The one we never talk about is look at the COVID years.
Big time.
There were many jurisdictions, including Virginia, many jurisdictions where it said, hey, we're not doing elections. Everybody's staying put for another year. And people were forced to sit there for 2 years. You had masters that were forced to be masters for 2 years.
Even staying officer lines. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, staying in place. That's something you don't plan for. And like John was referring to before, everybody has this desire and need to want to leave their stamp or leave their mark on things, right? Sure. So exactly like you were talking about, there were probably so many senior wardens those years that were like, hey, this year is I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do this charity and I'm going to have this speaker and I'm going to do all that stuff. And all those plans just went up in smoke, right?
Yeah.
You were just sitting there waiting to figure out when you could go to lodge again. So some of these implosions or stagnations have nothing to do with you and are completely out of your control. And you just got to adapt and overcome, right? That was probably the dumbest thing to say in
Gnostic Man says
put out into the universe.
There will be no second consecutive year for him.
Yeah. So take it from personal experience. When you put that out into the universe will speak back to you very loudly.
Of course, there's not going to be a second consecutive year. There's going to be multiple consecutive years.
Well, yes. I will say a prayer for you tonight.
Yeah.
You're spot on, Mikey.
The grand officer stepping out of line also happens.
Or sometimes they're taken out of line because they do bad things and they get arrested. So those,
that's bad.
Yes, also bad. So don't get arrested or don't get caught, one or the other. Okay. When you're a grand officer, yes. Don't get lawsuits on you. So many examples, but yeah, I mean, I'm really going to say a prayer for Gnostic Man 00 tonight. Don't put that out there, man. Don't put that out there. Oh, you're killing me.
We should just leave this up for the rest of the episode.
Just leave it up.
Burn it into the internet.
Into my monitor.
Just burn it into the screen.
Yes. So things happen, and you just got to be able to adapt and overcome and just rely on your brothers and those around you and your family. I love this.
Should the immediate past master become the Tyler?
We do that at my lodge.
Cool.
We do that at my lodge, and it sounds weird, but it actually makes a lot of sense. You have this person. I was so glad when I got to sit outside. This is actually the year I'm sitting outside as Tyler. And it's good because what it does is it cuts down on the curmudgery. Is that a word? Curmudgery?
Yeah. Go get outside. Go sit outside. Take it outside.
Go sit outside, cool off. Nobody cares what you have to say. You're not in charge anymore. Go cool off.
It's not your year. Mm-hmm.
Bring your iPad, watch the baseball game. Okay. Because we're not letting you in for a whole year. And you just get a year to just sit there and cool off. And then remember that you
serve the lodge. Mm-hmm.
You serve the lodge and you are a brother like everyone else. And, when you've cooled off, we'll let you back in and then you can throw out your opinions again. But hopefully you'll have chilled out for a bit. But I think that's awesome. I think that's a great idea. We actually do it at my lodge whenever possible. And it makes sense. You give the people that were behind you a chance to rise and succeed and shine and do amazing things without your input. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Let's put this up one more time just for funnies.
Okay. Gnostic Man will not have a second consecutive year.
None for me. Yeah.
Well, this is fun. This is a good episode. Let's wrap it up and start really putting the final touches on this, because really, what should people do to prevent or mitigate this risk of having the possibility, for the variety of reasons we talked about, of having an imploding officer line? So I'll hand it off to you, Joe, and then we'll start.
Well, I'm gonna steal your answer and say I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with no matter where you're sitting or what you're doing, always plan to train your replacement. That right there will solve 90% of your problems, right? Because if you're the one that needs to do the leaving, you've left the lodge in good hands, right?
Yeah,
because,
that's a good point. Mm-hmm.
So, and you can never plan for real life. Real life is going to come. It's going to punch you in the face.
Yep.
And things are going to happen. So,
exactly.
That's the first one that sticks out of my head is always train your replacement. And I think the second one is like we were talking about with the different models of businesses, foster an environment where people want to participate and want to be informed and want to be knowledgeable about things, because it'll increase the pool of people that will be able to help, because lodges cannot be operated by a single person. As much as worshipful masters and grandmasters think, it takes more than one person to run a lodge. It really
what?
Yeah.
Why do they say it's my year? Why don't they say it's our lodge's year?
Because they're selfish. That's why.
Oh, okay, gotcha. This ego thing gets in the way all the time.
Yeah, I've had 2 bubblies tonight, so I'm just spicy.
Wow, you are spicy.
Yeah. It's not your year. Get over yourself. But yeah, no, it's if you do foster that type of mentality, you are going to love it.
Life sentence as secretary. That's also
Yes. Mea culpa. But yeah, no, have that environment in your lodge where people want to be involved. And if they do want to be involved, when and if the time comes, they will help you and they will be there for you and they will support you no matter what is happening in your office or line at the time.
I think the way the summary that I heard you say is basically be transparent and be open and collaborative, right? Just to say like, hey,
absolutely,
this is another way for you to support and serve your lodge. You don't, being an officer is not for everyone. However, should the need arise, then there won't be surprises and the unexpected, right? That you have other talents outside of your officer line that could rise to the occasion. Right. Cool.
Yep.
Anything else you want to add,
Joe? Gnostic Man 00. We'll keep you in my thoughts. Wish you the best. Yeah, I love it. But this has been fun. I'm glad we could touch on this. I know people had come and told the stories and share things with us, but this usually seems to be the time when things start to go awry. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. So
yeah, and I think just to put my final spin on it is, again, think of that backbench, right? If you are planning your year, then in the East, or you're an officer, just help to add part of your planning to say, account for these what ifs, right? Your lodge probably has insurance in case there's a fire, right? So this is just yet another insurance policy for what could go wrong. Hopefully it never does, but if you don't plan for it, then you're going to be scrambling when it happens. So so keep that in mind. Have that backbench, which really manifests itself in really understanding what are the strengths of all the brethren in your lodge, right? Because again, not everyone's fit to be an officer, but if you truly know that, hey, with a little care and feeding, a little mentoring, and a little bit of work, that we could have this whole backbench, this whole cohort of guys who could rise to the occasion and do an excellent job filling in any of our seats, right? So that way, it is truly a we, not a me.
Yeah, spot on. And I think just the only cherry I'll add to the top of that cake is ask your brothers and your friends what they want to do, right? It's amazing that nobody ever asks brothers, hey, what is it you want to do here? Hey, I want to do vacation. Hey, I want to do ritual. Hey, I'm really good at fixing things here around the lodge. I'm bad at ritual. I suck at this, but I'm good at that. And just leverage their strengths, right? And then augment their weaknesses or their shortcomings. But take the things that they actually want to do and pull those out of them,
Yep. Love it. All right.
Boom.
Well, this is great. See you next week. And as always, keep searching for more light. Have a good night. Good luck, Gnostic.
Gnostic Man, year 2 and 3 coming, baby.